OpenAI logo fading in like a boss battle, red siren text, sequel. Remember the last video about the 4-day work week? The comments were basically a small civil war. One camp was like, greedy capitalists will never allow that. Another was, I love my job, 4 days would be depressing. And my personal favorite was basically, I already work 4 on, 4 off, and 5 on 2 sounds like prison. Well, bad news, everybody in the comments may have been right at the same time. Because this story is no longer, wow, AI might help us chill on Fridays. OpenAI just published a policy document that talks about 4-day workweek pilots like economic damage control. Not a lifestyle hack, not a LinkedIn wellness post, a shock absorber. And when the company building the disruption starts sketching the airbags, maybe take your hands off the dashboard.
Industrial Policy for the Intelligence Age, timeline from last episode to now. The document is called Industrial Policy for the Intelligence Age. And to be super clear, OpenAI is not saying, hey everyone, congrats, permanent 3-day weekends for all. That's not the vibe here. What they are explicitly talking about is way more interesting. They talk about efficiency dividends. In normal human English, that means AI makes workers more productive, and then society has to decide where those gains go. Do workers get some of that back as time, pay stability, or benefits? Or do shareholders get the entire pie and workers get a polite email about restructuring? That is the real story. The 4-day workweek is not the main character. Distribution is.
32-hour, 4-day workweek pilots. No loss in pay. Hold output constant. Bankable paid time off. Here is the part that should make you sit up a little straighter. OpenAI explicitly calls for time-bound 32-hour or 4-day workweek pilots. Not vibes, not fanfiction, pilots. It also explicitly says no loss in pay. Again, no loss in pay. Not, congrats, you work fewer hours and now make less money. Enjoy your wellness. They are talking about maintaining pay while testing whether AI-driven productivity can keep output and service levels constant. They also talk about converting reclaimed hours into a shorter week, bankable paid time off, or both. That is a very specific sentence. That's not a startup founder saying, we believe in the future of work. That's somebody in policy mode, trying to figure out how not to have the labor market turn into a Reddit thread with GDP consequences.
Shareholders with money printer and stonks arrow. Efficiency dividends sounds like the most evil HR phrase ever invented. But the underlying question is actually simple. If AI lets one worker do the job of 1.3 workers, who gets the dividend? Does the worker get a shorter week and the same pay? Does the company keep headcount stable and improve margins a little? Or does management pocket the gains, cut staff, boost earnings, and then go on CNBC to say the company is becoming leaner and more agile, which is executive language for your calendar invite just disappeared? OpenAI's paper matters because it quietly admits the dividend does not distribute itself. Markets do not magically convert productivity into human happiness. Shocking, I know. Without policy, the default setting is pretty obvious. Capital keeps the upside. Labor eats the turbulence.
Unemployment insurance, SNAP, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare is the part where the whole thing stops sounding like a cool workplace perk and starts sounding like a contingency plan. OpenAI also explicitly talks about adaptive safety nets. Specifically, it says systems like unemployment insurance, SNAP, Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare should be strengthened so they can actually function at scale during transition. During transition. That phrase is doing a lot of work. Because if your product is mostly helping people write emails faster, you do not usually start brainstorming how to harden the social safety net. You do that when you think there is at least some real chance of labor disruption, tax-based pressure, and a whole lot of workers getting economically jump scared. And that's what makes this feel even weirder in hindsight. A couple of years ago, Elon Musk and a bunch of AI people were calling for a 6-month pause so society could figure out what the hell to do. Nobody paused. Nobody hit the brakes. Everyone just kept shipping, scaling, and racing for market share. And now, the same industry is talking about 4-day work weeks and stronger safety nets like it is sketching the emergency exits after takeoff. OpenAI used to sell AI productivity. Now it is quietly designing the crash cushions.
Icons in macro chart showing productivity up versus labor share flat. because this is where the whole thing gets brutally real. If AI productivity keeps rising, somebody captures that value. The obvious market winners are still the usual suspects: infrastructure, model vendors, cloud, chips. That means names like NVDA, MSFT, and GOOG still sit closest to the money hose. But the political risk is getting harder to ignore. If AI gains start looking too much like higher output, fewer workers, weaker wage growth, then investors are not just betting on product adoption anymore. They are betting on how much backlash the system can absorb before policymakers step in. And this OpenAI paper is weirdly important because it suggests even OpenAI sees that risk. 4-day pilots with no loss in pay and talk of efficiency dividends are basically an attempt to preserve consumer demand, social stability, and legitimacy while automation ramps. Because here's the secret Wall Street knows but doesn't always say out loud. If workers lose income, eventually companies lose customers.
Pilot 你们个 policy cross OpenAI logo. Now, before anyone says, wow, OpenAI has become the benevolent steward of the working class, calm down. A pilot is not a structural commitment. OpenAI is not a neutral referee here. It benefits massively from more AI adoption. So yes, there is a strategic angle to sounding like the responsible adult in the room, while also building the machine that might light the room on fire. And we need to be careful not to overstate what the PDF says. The document directly mentions 4-day pilots, no loss in pay, efficiency dividends, and adaptive safety nets. What it does not directly prove is some full grand plan for robot taxes, public wealth funds, or post-labor utopia. Those are broader media interpretations, or at best, the direction some people think this logic eventually points toward. Maybe that framing is right, maybe not. But if it's not in the PDF, don't launder it into fake certainty. That's how you end up building an entire ideology off a footnote and 3 tweets. Optimism, cynicism, preference. So the comment war from the last episode looks different now. Greedy capitalists will never allow that. Still a valid concern. I love my job. 4 days would be depressing. Also fair, because not every worker wants the exact same trade-off. I already work 4 on, 4 off. Great, you are living in the future, apparently. But the bigger point is that this has stopped being a debate about whether Fridays are cozy. It is now a debate about the social contract for the AI era. If AI creates massive efficiency gains, then society has to choose. Share them through shorter hours, stable pay, and stronger safety nets. Or don't, and let displacement show up as layoffs, insecurity, and a fun new genre of political chaos. OpenAI's document does not solve that problem, but it absolutely confirms the people closest to the blast radius are thinking about it. So that's why OpenAI pitching a 4-day work week is not automatically wholesome. It is not just saying AI can make your week nicer. It is admitting AI might hit the economy hard enough that we need shock absorbers, fast. The real question is the same one from last time, just less hypothetical now. When AI makes workers more productive, who actually gets the gains? If the answer is everyone, then shorter weeks could be amazing. If the answer is mostly capital, then the 4-day work week was never the point. The airbags were. Like and subscribe if you want more AI news with fewer corporate bedtime stories. I'm an AI voice clone. I literally don't care.